What is up, Broncos fans? The Denver Broncos Show back here again to do another video. In this video, I'll be previewing the Broncos' upcoming playoff game against the Indianapolis Colts this Sunday in the AFC Divisional Round. Should be a fun game, obviously going to be from Mile High Stadium here in Denver, and it should be a great game. It's a great challenge for our team, playing a very good young Colts team that's extremely well coached, obviously under Chuck Pagano. They got one of the best football players today in the NFL and one of the best quarterbacks today in the NFL in Andrew Luck. And there's so many storylines surrounding this game as well. Obviously, it's Peyton Manning versus Andrew Luck. It's Peyton Manning versus the Colts, the one team he won a Super Bowl for, his prior organization that he played with before joining us. Everyone knows the story. And it's the team that we started our season off this year with. That we played the Colts, obviously, back in the season opener on Sunday Night Football here in Denver, primetime game. Beat them by 7, 31-24. And now we're starting our postseason off against them. So it should be a great challenge. Now looking at some of the keys to this game for the Broncos, starting on the offensive side of the football, I think first and foremost, we have to win on third down, and we got to convert on third down. You look at the Indianapolis Colts defense. This is a defensive unit that is highly criticized at times, and I think very underrated at times. This is a very good and well-coached defensive unit in Indianapolis, of course, under Chuck Pagano, one of the best defensive minds in football. They have a very underrated linebacking core with DeQuell Jackson and Jarrell Freeman. They're quick. They're great at going sideline to sideline. They got a great physical secondary led by Vontae Davis. And you know, they may not have a one great singular pass rusher. I know they have Robert Mathis. He's dealt with injuries, of course, missing majority of this season, if not all of this season, I believe. But they're great at getting to the pass rusher as a team, disguising blitzes, bringing corners, safeties on blitzes. I mean, this is a really underrated defensive unit in Indianapolis, and they're particularly great on third down. This is the second-ranked third down defense in the NFL this season. They only allowed opponents to convert on 33% of third down conversions this season, and they only gave up a total of 67 third down conversions to opposing teams this year, which was fewest in the NFL. So this is, you know, if not the best, arguably the best third down defense in the NFL. We're going to have to convert on third down, keep drives alive, sustain drives, and be able to get in a rhythm offensively, because if this defense is able to execute on third downs and get our offense off the field and give Luck momentum and allow Luck to control the clock and keep Peyton Manning off the field, it's obviously going to be a long game for us. And on the flip side of things, we're a pretty good third down offense in our own right. We were the 8th ranked third down offensive team this season. We converted on 44% of our third down conversions, and we had 94 third down conversions as a whole this season, which was seventh most in the NFL. And back in the season opener, we were 7 of 14 on our third down conversions against this Colts defense that allowed us to really control the game, especially in the first half, and keep our offense on the field and sustain drives. And that's what we're going to have to do here. Again, this is a very underrated defensive unit in Indianapolis, and they're great on third downs. Again, the second-ranked third down defense. As I mentioned earlier, this is a very physical secondary led by Vontae Davis. They got Greg Toller. They got a very good veteran safety who used to play for us, and Mike Adams. They got Darius Butler as well back there. This is a very physical group in the back end of this Colts defense. They're the 12th ranked passing defense this season, only giving up about 229 passing yards per game. And again, Greg Toller and Vontae Davis, those are two they're very underrated cornerback tandem, and they're two very physical corners. Those two guys combined for 29 pass deflections and 6 interceptions this season. Again, they have very solid veteran safety in Mike Adams and Darius Butler on the back end. When we played the Colts in that season opener, this secondary did a pretty good job of keeping Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders in check. Both those guys in that Week 1 matchup against the Colts combined for 10 catches and 125 yards, but no touchdowns on 20 targets. So they did a good job of at least containing Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, and for the most part, again, Vontae Davis did a great job being physical in that game with both Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas and kind of neutralizing them. That's a pretty subpar game for Sanders and DT when they only combined for 10 catches and 125 yards. Again, no touchdowns on 20 targets. And both those guys are going to have to match the physicality of these corners and have to beat them consistently in coverage if we were to be successful. And it's not like we can't move the ball vertically on this defense. I mean, we're the 4th ranked passing offense this year. We got Peyton Manning back there. As long as our offensive line protects him and our receivers can match the physicality against these corners, I think we'll be all right. But that's going to be a huge matchup in this game, is their secondary versus our receivers, primarily DT and Emmanuel Sanders, because in that Week 1 matchup against the Colts, Julius Thomas had a field day against this Colts secondary. He had 7 catches for 104 yards and 3 touchdowns in that Week 1 matchup against the Colts. But since Week 9 of the regular season, Julius Thomas has kind of been ineffective and kind of been non-existent on the offensive side of the football for the Broncos. Since Week 9, he's only had 13 catches, 162 yards, and 3 touchdowns on 20 targets. We got to find a way to get him more involved offensively. Again, he was huge against the Colts in Week 1. And if there's any where this Colts defense is weak, I think it's in the middle of their defense with their linebackers in coverage, and I think we were able to expose that in the Week 1 matchup with the Colts with Julius Thomas. And in getting Julius Thomas more targets, first and foremost, that starts with Peyton Manning getting him the ball, but it also starts with play calling and putting him in the position to attack the middle of the field. That's going to open up things on the outside for DT and Emmanuel Sanders, and it's also going to open up things for you on third down. Again, as I just mentioned, this is a great defensive unit on third down. They're great at keeping opponents in check on third down conversions, but Julius Thomas is just going to give Peyton Manning another target on third downs to go to, and he's also a guy that in the red zone is just a humongous target and a humongous threat for the opposing defense. He's one of the best red zone targets in the NFL, and he's obviously adds a huge dimension to our offense in the red zone when he's out there, and we've got to find a way to get him more involved, especially, again, attacking the middle of the field, but in that red zone, Julius Thomas is a difference maker, and I hope to see him have a big game here against the Colts defense, because if we are able to get him more involved, attack the middle of the field, attack the Colts linebackers in coverage, I think we can have a lot of success of opening up some things down the field on the outside for both Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Lastly, for the offense in this game, I think they got to look to stay balanced on the offensive side of the football, not get too pass heavy or too run heavy, but also protect the football as well. You look at in all 4 of our losses this season, we turned the ball over at least two times in all 4 of those losses. Turned the ball over 4 times, obviously, against Cincinnati. So protecting the ball is key. Peyton Manning this season has thrown 15 interceptions. That's the most interceptions he's thrown in his 3 seasons with the Broncos. He can't look to force throws. He's got to make smart decisions with the football, and the communication between him and Demaryius Thomas, that's something that you saw that was kind of lacking in the past 2 or 3 games this season for the Broncos. That has got to be on point, because if you have some of the miscues that those 2 had primarily down the stretch of this season, it could lead to turnovers, and obviously turning the ball over, especially in a game with this high of stakes, obviously is never good, and it puts unnecessary pressure on your defense and your team in general. So those 2 guys got to be sharp, and again, Peyton Manning, protect that ball. 15 picks this season, got to protect that ball, especially against a very savvy and smart Colts secondary. And again, be balanced on the offensive side of the football. That mainly starts with running the football. C.J. Anderson obviously has been brilliant for the Broncos since he started back in Week 10 against the Raiders. Since Week 10, he's compiled 767 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, averaging 4.7 yards per carry this season. I mean, we got to feed C.J. Anderson, our offensive line, win that battle in the trenches, kind of punch the Colts defensive line in the mouth, be more physical, and again, allow us to be balanced on the offensive end. Because if we're able to run the football, that opens up the play action passing game. We can utilize that to attack the middle of the field with Julius Thomas, and then that opens up things on the outside for DT and Emmanuel Sanders, and then you attack these safeties and those 2 corners, Vontae Davis and Greg Toller, down the field with Demaryius Thomas, who's one of the best vertical threats, if not the best vertical threat in the NFL. Allow us to get in a rhythm on the offensive side of the football, win on third downs, be more unpredictable with our third down play calling, allow us to be in more third and manageable situations against a great third down defense in the Colts, and if we're able to run the ball effectively here against Indianapolis, it can open up a lot of things for us offensively in this game. Now, looking at the keys to this game defensively, first and foremost, you got to start with containing and pressuring Andrew Luck. Obviously, there's really no defense in the NFL, or at least there hasn't been many defenses in the NFL that have been able to just flat out stop Andrew Luck. But if you can contain him and pressure him, not allow him to keep plays alive with his legs, you can limit some opportunities for the Colts offense in this game. He's thrown for 4,761 yards, which is ranked 3rd in the NFL this season, 40 touchdowns, which was 1st, and he had a quarterback rating of 96.5, which was 7th. He also did throw 16 interceptions, which was 6th in the NFL, but he's become which is scary, he's become even more proficient and effective pocket passer, and again, he has that athletic ability to make throws on the run run and keep plays alive with his legs. So we're going to have to do our best to contain him and pressure him, because if you allow him to sit back in that pocket, you allow him to make throws on the run and create plays and extend plays with his legs, he'll just shred you. I mean, look what he did to the Cincinnati Bengals last week. I think he threw for like 375 yards. If we allow him to be effective in this game, even in the second half against us back in week 1, he was throwing dart after dart after dart down the field. You let him get in a rhythm like that and you don't pressure him, it's going to be a long day for any defense, and you're going to have a very tough time. You look at this Colts passing attack, they're one of the best in the NFL. Obviously, they're the first ranked passing offense in the NFL, and I believe they're the second ranked receiving offense. On the flip side, the Broncos secondary is the 9th ranked passing defense, and I believe the 9th ranked receiving defense in the NFL. But this is obviously a very effective passing offense. They're very effective at moving the ball vertically through the air, and our secondary is going to have to be on point in this game, but it really starts with pressuring Andrew Luck. Again, Indianapolis is a lot more ineffective offensively, and Andrew Luck is a lot more ineffective offensively. If you kind of can collapse the pocket on him, you're not always going to sack him because he's big, he's athletic, he's quick, he's able to make some plays and extend some plays that other quarterbacks just can't do. But if you're able to collapse the pocket, kind of force him to get rid of the ball quickly, not allow him to read the defense, kind of take him off his spot and kind of force him to rush his throws, you can definitely limit this Colts offense and limit Andrew Luck. In the Colts' 5 losses this season, their offensive line allowed Andrew Luck to get sacked 8 times in those 5 losses. But opponents in those 5 losses against Indy recorded 29 quarterback hits. So again, you're not always going to sack him, but if you can pressure him, force him to hurry throws, and just hit him, beat him up, be physical with him. The guy that is very effective with his legs. I think one of the most underrated mobile quarterbacks in terms of his speed in the NFL. He's had 273 rushing yards this season, 3 touchdowns. He does a great job of keeping plays alive. Obviously, DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller are going to have to seal the edge, not allow him to break the pocket, get to the outside, and make those throws down the field. And don't allow him to extend plays and keep plays alive. Collapse that pocket, hit him. Again, 5 losses. They gave up 29 quarterback hits. Got DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller coming off the edge, but we got to collapse that pocket interiorly. That's where Terrence Knighton comes in, but most importantly, that's where Derek Wolfe and primarily Malik Jackson. I said it in my recap for the last game of the regular season. Malik Jackson is a guy that can be an X factor for this Broncos defense in the playoffs, and it starts with the Colts. If he can kind of provide an interior pass rush for us, Miller and Ware on the outside, that will allow us to collapse that pocket, and again, allow us to hit Andrew Luck, beat him up, be more physical than this Colts offensive line, and force him to hurry reads and hurry throws, get in his face, not allow him to have clear throwing lanes. We can have some success against this Colts offense. And the last key for the Broncos here in this game on the defensive side of the football is not only do you got to contain and obviously pressure, get to Andrew Luck, but you got to also contain his weapons. Contain primarily T.Y. Hilton and Reggie Wayne. Those guys in the Week 1 showdown in the season opener combined for 14 catches and 139 yards on 24 targets against us in that game. So they were pretty effective, especially Reggie Wayne. I think he had 9 catches in that game. We did a pretty good job limiting T.Y. Hilton. But T.Y. Hilton is one of the best receivers, obviously, in the NFL. You look what he's done this season for the Colts. 82 catches, 1,345 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He averaged 16.4 yards per catch, which was ranked 6th in the NFL, and he had 21 catches this season of 20 yards or more, which was also ranked 6th in the NFL. I mean, this is a guy that can take the top off of defense. He's extreme vertical threat. He can get down the field. He's obviously super quick, but he's also a guy that has improved his route running. I think he's also ranked in like the top 5 or 6 in catches that led to first downs this season. So he's improved his route running. He's more polished as a route runner, and he has more of a knack now to get open. He's become a more intelligent receiver, not to mention, again, the vertical threat that he is. This guy can get down the field quickly and can take the top off of defense. And you look what he did last week against the Bengals. He had 6 catches for 103 yards against the Bengals, and he dropped a couple passes in that game that could have led to touchdowns. Aqib Talib, Chris Harris, and Bradley Roby, those 3 guys combined for 48 pass deflections and 9 interceptions this season. Chris Harris is arguably the best corner in football. Obviously, I think he's going to probably be primarily matched up with T.Y. Hilton, and I got a ton of faith in those 4 guys, but they got to be physical, especially with T.Y. Hilton. Kind of look to press him, bump him at the line, and then Reggie Wayne just kind of looked to limit Reggie Wayne, especially on third down. And defensively, you also got to look to protect the middle of the field. The Colts have two very good young tight ends in Dwayne Allen and Kobe Fleener. Those guys combined for 7 catches and 85 yards to go along with the touchdown in the Week 1 matchup against us. Obviously, Dwayne Allen's a guy that's a great athlete, but also a phenomenal blocker. And Kobe Fleener is more of a vertical threat as well. Obviously, he's known Andrew Luck since they played together at Stanford. And Kobe Fleener's been on a roll. Since Week 9, he's recorded 33 catches for 556 yards, 5 touchdowns on 58 targets. So Andrew Luck is looking his way. Obviously, our defense has been susceptible in terms of our linebackers in coverage and teams exposing us by utilizing the tight end. Ask New England, look what Gronkowski did to us in that game back in like Week 9 or Week 8. So that's why getting Brandon Marshall back for this game is huge. But our linebackers, our safeties, they got to be wary of where Fleener and Dwayne Allen are. Again, Fleener is kind of like a safety blanket for Andrew Luck, and again, is a guy like T.Y. Hilton that can vertically get down the field, and Dwayne Allen's a guy that's a physical blocker, great athlete as well. Those are two guys that the Broncos got to be wary of as well. Not allow this Colts offense to attack the middle of the field, and again, do not let T.Y. Hilton take the top off your defense. Don't let him beat you deep, and I think our defense, if Roby, Harris, and Talib can play at the level they have been playing so far this year and be physical at the line of scrimmage with Fleener, with Hilton, with Dwayne Allen, I think we can have a really successful game here against the Colts. Hey, leave me a comment below with what you think of this game between the Denver Broncos and Indianapolis Colts, whether you're a Broncos or a Colts fan, and how you see these two teams matching up here in the AFC Divisional Round, and name me some of your keys to this game. What do you think the Broncos need to do to win? What do you think the Colts need to do to win? Should be a fun matchup. Got nothing but respect for the Indianapolis Colts organization. Great head coach, again, great quarterback, underrated defense. They got some great skill players at the skill positions, and this is it's going to be a tough matchup at home. But again, it's all about getting to Arizona, and the Colts are obviously the first obstacle in our way. Can't be overconfident, got to execute, and hopefully we can come out with a win and move one win closer to the Super Bowl 49 and hopefully hoisting that Lombardi Trophy this season. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate the support as always. Can't wait to play the Colts on this Sunday. Will be a fun challenge, and as always, go Broncos. Let's go, boys. 3 wins away.